Hi, welcome back to the channel. I'm Michelle, and today I'm going to be sharing my plans for Christmas in our homeschooling. So every December, we do a specific study of either a cultural tradition, religious tradition, a specific person. So in the past, we've done Hanukkah, we've done Kwanzaa, we've done winter solstice, last year we did St. Lucia. So we've done a variety of different things. So this year, what I chose for us to study is Santa Claus. So I wanted to do kind of a specific deep dive into Santa, the history of Santa, the different stories of Santa, fact, legend, all that into one. So originally I did try finding some already pre-made unit study type things, and I'm not a big unit study fan. I think a lot of them are poorly put together. The majority of them don't list their resources. So I was having a really hard time. The stuff I wasn't finding wasn't what I was looking for, or it was very biased. There seems to be a kind of feud over whether Santa was a real person type thing. And again, the way I'm approaching this is we are very much believers of Santa in our house. We are also Christian. If you want to know specifics, we are Lutheran, specifically the ELCA denomination. We celebrate both the birth of Jesus and Santa Claus in our house, and that's never been an issue, and I think it's certain people make it an issue. We always have both those going during December. So I do have a separate Advent study, which I'll be sharing at another time, that we do for more the Christian aspect of it. But a lot of the Santa studies I was finding was focusing on St. Nicholas, and I think that's great. It's one of the things we're going to discuss about, but there's more to Santa than that. There's a lot of traditions and history, actual factual history I want to get into. It's not about proving this person was real or disproving this person was real. So like I said, many of the unit studies I found were just kind of a little leaning more towards bias, more that, oh, St. Nicholas was a person, but Santa's a made-up thing. And that's not what I want to present to my children. I don't want to present that this is the right, this is the wrong, but just a plethora of perspectives, ideas, and they can come to their own conclusions with it. But I very much believe in Santa, and I have no problem saying that. So how I looked into it, finally I decided I'll just compile my own resources. Yes, it takes more time, but ultimately it's focusing on the areas I want to do. So my goals for this study for December was to keep it simple. This is a busy time of year. If you're new here, my husband's a pastor, so I pretty much don't see him the entire month of December, and that's not, that's a joke, but a joke aside, he's extremely busy, and I can't really count on him for a lot of help when it comes to the Christmas season. So I have to keep it simple. I don't want something that's pretty or full of crafts. I think those things are great, but I'm not looking for watercolor unit studies that have like 30 crafts to them. Crafts are great, but I want to use our time in a meaningful way, not just filling it with busy work, if that makes sense. So I want it to be intentional things we're talking and learning about, not just making sure we're checking off boxes. This is something we're supposed to be enjoying and learning about and bringing more joy to the Christmas season. Because I think ultimately that's what this is about. It's about whether, you celebrate the birth of Jesus or you celebrate Santa or winter solstice, whatever you celebrate, it's about happiness and joy and hope. And that's ultimately what I want this study to be about. So how I ended up figuring out what to do is I looked at a couple different resources. I perused online, I looked at Goodreads, things like that, reviews on books, because again, I wanted to start with some factual books. There's a set of books I am reading, and then there's a set of books I'm reading with my kids. The books I'm reading is more about the history of winter traditions, Christmas traditions, both Christian-based ones, but also secular-based Christmas traditions, which would be, things like St. Nicholas or learning about Santa Claus, the difference between those, and not being afraid of proving one or the other, because again, we embrace both thoughts in this house. You can be secular and still celebrate Christmas. I'm not a person that's going to tell you Jesus is the reason for the season. I think Christmas existed and traditions around Christmas existed far before Christians wanted to polarize that. So that's one of the things we will be discussing in our books. So I have a set of books I'm reading for myself to educate myself, because I think especially when you're teaching your children something that you're not, like, I don't know the factual history of Santa Claus, that wasn't something I was taught. So I think educating yourself and having good resources is the first step. And then from there, I figured out how we were going to lay it out. So I know we have 3 weeks in December because we take the last week of December off for Christmas. And in those 3 weeks, I know we have about 1 to 2 days per week to do this study. And again, this is something that's supposed to be fun, enjoyable, not stressful. So I changed our schedule a little, and I will link up our original schedule here. The only change I made is we inserted the Santa study on Mondays, which we don't have anything besides history for group work that day, which is fine. So we already kind of had some leeway with that. And then Tuesday, I took away geography. We were doing geography, United States geography. I took that out and I replaced it with Santa study. So Monday and Tuesday will be, for one of our group subjects, will be this Santa study. So that's kind of how I figured it out. Found my resources, figured out my plan. Know I have 3 weeks, 2 days, chunks to fill that out. So from that, I devised what I want to learn each week. So the first week, I want to really dive into St. Nicholas, just focusing on the person, what he's known for, what he did, different imagery surrounding St. Nicholas. And then the other 2 weeks, we're going to focus on Santa Claus. So the second week will be focusing on different interpretations of Santa, whether it's, Krampus or Sinterklaas or whatever it is, the different interpretations of Santa. And then the third week, we'll be diving more into asking those questions about Santa. So how do the reindeer work? And how does he deliver presents? So really diving into that. So the first week, I'm going to share my resource books that I'm using first. So my goal for this, keeping it simple and enjoyable, is to really be mindful of that I'm not pouring a ton of money into. This is just a little study we're doing during December to learn more, have some fun together, and get into the Christmas spirit. That being said, every December I do set a budget for books that I can buy to help aid in these studies, and the budget is $25. And you're like, oh, that's not very much. I go on Thrift Books. I got the 2 books I wanted for under $25. I think I spent, $15 or $16 for the 2 books I got. So I don't need to buy all the books. And that's another thing I did. While researching different book options, I really looked at my library. I looked at the surrounding libraries that are associated with my library that I can borrow from. I also looked at Interlibrary Loan and Hoopla. Interlibrary Loan, they will pull books that are not associated necessarily with your library, and they come from farther away. So there's usually about a 2-week wait to get those books. So I looked at all those resources. The majority of the books I'm using are from the library because, again, I'm keeping it under budget. I don't need to go buy every Santa book out there. There are full, Santa Claus encyclopedias, historical encyclopedias and things like that. I don't need that. We're doing a simple study of Santa, just, dipping our toes into the information. So, with that being said, the 2 books I chose to purchase was Christmas, A Candid History by Bruce David Forbes. I have to say, of all the books I've looked over so far, this one I think is the best for kind of historically looking at Santa. So this author goes through kind of the hard legwork of finding all the information. They're very upfront in how they view things, that they, again, believe that you can have follow Jesus and celebrate the birth of Jesus, but also, celebrate Santa too. And he talks about secular traditions and things like that. A lot of the books I found were leaning more towards a Christian viewpoint, which, again, I want to provide multiple viewpoints. So a lot of this is, do we know the exact answer? No, but we make educated guesses, and he provides the research, and there's notes in the back about where those sources he pulls from, which I appreciate. So I really like this one. The entire first chapter kind of dives into Christianity, the nativity story, which I found as a Christian really interesting. Some things I already knew, there's never a donkey in the Christmas story or the birth of Jesus. There was never, they say he was born in a manger, but there's never necessarily animals. That was something that was added to the story later on. And, of all the birth of Jesus stories, it only appears in 2 Gospels. So things like that. I think as a Christian, it's really interesting to know. But again, you have to approach it with an open mindset. If you're all like, it has to be this way, Jonah had to be in a whale type person, that's not the book for you, because it's going to give multiple perspectives on things. So I enjoyed that, but it also goes really into St. Nicholas, gift giving. And I found this a really interesting read myself. So again, I'm going to read these and take out the information, kind of condense it. It's already what I would consider a condensed version of Christmas history, which is really nice. I don't need the super deep dive at this point. If my kids want to do like a super deep dive, maybe another time, a separate independent study type thing. But this is just going over some information. So I will pull the things like the things I learned about the nativity scene, especially when we're doing our Advent study, and bring that conversation up and the things I read about. So that is one. The other one is the true story of Santa Claus, the history, the traditions, and the magic. Now this one is more a pop culture reference. And so I don't consider it, the most reliable resource, but I really wanted the pictures in it. So when we look at kind of the evolution or the changes of Santa Claus throughout the decades or different countries and things like that, I want to be able to show my kids visually what that looked like. But I also want to be able to make reference to what they know about Santa. There's an entire section in here about, when they're talking about reindeer, you can see pop culture references to popular Christmas movies, things like that. It also goes into things like Christmas trees and gift giving. So it gives an overall view. Let's see, for example, like the Santa through the years, what it looked like. So that's what I'm looking at visually, being able to pull these things up, but also having those references to the things they already know about. So for example, we already learned about St. Lucia, and then we're gonna have different versions of Santa Claus represented in here, and then we're gonna have the pop culture references of the movies they're familiar with. So I think that will be fun to bring into the conversation. So let's go into the first week. So the first week, I'm not gonna share every single book I picked up from the library because one, I don't have them all yet. A lot of them are coming from different libraries. Hopefully they'll be here by next week, but we will see. So I will share the ones I do have. I will link down below per week, like week 1, week 2, week 3, what books I plan on using to make that easier for you, but I can't share them all because some of them are either Hoopla digital copies or they haven't come in yet. So the first week, like I said, we are going to be doing a St. Nicholas study. So some of the books I picked up, and again, there are more. I have a lot more story picture book types things that are coming from the library. Again, check that list below if you want to see. The first one was the Winter Solstice, the Sacred Traditions of Christmas. So I'm going to specifically be reading this for myself, but also there's a part in here about St. Nicholas. And it's a couple pages long, and that's something I can easily read to the kids. So my plan is to really just read those, bring the information I've learned from my resource books, but also bring in a bunch of picture books that kind of show what we're talking about, the evolution of Santa, different things like this. For example, one of the things in here is solstice animals. I think my kids will absolutely love that section, so we might have to dive into that too. So that is one book we'll be doing for St. Nicholas. Next one is Stories of the Saints. Again, I think this is just a one-page spread of St. Nicholas. Yep. Oh, sorry, 3-page. So just basic information about St. Nicholas. And there is a resource, a website done by a Virginia seminary, I believe, and it's all about St. Nicholas, and this is where I get a lot of my resources and printouts from. I'll link that down below, but I find it a credible resource. It definitely leads more, obviously, towards the Christian perspective that St. Nicholas was a real person. We should celebrate that and not so much Santa. But again, bringing in multiple perspectives is important. So I think I want to bring that aspect in as well and show that St. Nicholas and the history of St. Nicholas and be respectful of that belief. So with each week, we will also be doing 1 to 2 activities. So the first week we will be doing, for St. Nicholas, you'll be doing a variety of activities. And again, this is from the website. Oh yeah, the St. Nicholas Center. That's the website. So this is a dress of St. Nicholas. So you cut out the pieces, kind of like a paper doll, and they get to color it. I thought that would be fun while I'm reading some of the picture books. They could do that. Another thing we will be doing is St. Nicholas Bingo. And it has a bunch of different symbols on here. So the carrot, the orange, the potato, the miter, kids. And what I like is it has all these, why these symbols are important to St. Nicholas. So we will play that. And then it does have a couple pictures where you can try to find those various symbols and actual pictures of St. Nicholas or portraits. So I think that will be fun. Another thing I printed out for us to do is this search and find, kind of like a highlights magazine. That's what it reminded me of. But it has the pictures on the back or on the side, and you have to locate them in the picture. So again, these are activities they can be doing while I'm reading those books. Another thing we will be doing is making a St. Nicholas origami. So this is something I made because I wanted to practice it before I taught it to my children. So this is a St. Nicholas, and you could get origami paper and all the colors. And again, I will check that website out below. It will show you all the directions and a plethora of activities and things you can do for St. Nicholas days. So I didn't have origami paper. I'm not going to go buy origami paper because again, this is something we're trying to keep low priced. So I just took a piece of acrylic paper, so the thing you paint on. I just colored one side red, one side white, and there's a little extra, but again, most of his body's covered up. And that's what I did. That's what I did for this one. And it turned out really cute, and I just used marker on this part, and the rest was just painted. But I thought he turned out really cute, and he does stand by himself, so I think that will be a really cute decoration to put with our peg dolls from St. Lucia last year. So those are the activities we will be doing for St. Nicholas. So next up would be Santa Claus. So looking at the story of St. Nick, Santa's Around the World. One of the books we'll be getting is A World of Cookies for Santa, which I think is a popular one. There's even a specific unit study about that one. I'm going to get the book, and we're going to use it as our activity. Is we're going to make sugar cookie Santas, and we're going to try to represent different Santas we've learned about, and they can decorate it differently based on the different types of Santas we've learned about. Another activity we'll be doing for that one is we're going to learn to draw Santa using the Art for Kids Hub, which is a great online free, teaches you kids how to draw. And I think it's really fun. Whenever I make something, I'm like, oh wow, I'm an artist. That looks really nice. So we're going to bake Santa cookies in different variations, and we're going to learn how to draw Santa. So the books for that, the books are coming from different libraries, but of course we will be bringing in some of the pictures I showed in the pop culture book about the evolution of Santas and the different incarnations of Santa. So that will definitely be something I bring in as well, but I will list those books I plan on getting from the library. But the cookie one I know is going to lean into our activity. So the third week, we're looking at questions surrounding Santa. So let's go over some of the books I picked up. This is what my local library had. It's the Saturday Evening Post Christmas book, and the illustrations are by Norman Rockwell. So the main purpose of this is I wanted the pictures. So of course it does go over the nativity story, goes over Christmas carols, it goes over a lot of traditional ideas within the book, but I want to have visuals for my kids to kind of see the different interpretations of Santa. So we'll mainly be reading a couple pages out of here, but looking mostly at the pictures. So that's one book we'll be using. This one is called The Real Santa. So it goes over, a family looking at Santa and how they don't kind of represent what they look like. And that's one of the things I want to bring in, some of the things we're going to discuss when we go over the different interpretations of Santa. And especially when we talk about St. Nicholas, how it's often portrayed as a white person, and given the time and where that person lived, they would not necessarily be white. Same with baby Jesus. Baby Jesus wasn't blonde-haired and blue-eyed type thing. So I want to bring that to my children's attention so they can be noticeable when they are out and about, the interpretations of Santa they see and what that says and how you would feel if that didn't match what you look like. So that's not something new we've talked about. We've talked about it in different forms. Social justice is a main subject in our homeschool, so that's discrimination, ostracizing is something that we have talked about. And then the next one is the Santa Claus book. Does an interview type format where the author interviews Santa and he gives answers to things, and it's just really cool, like how old is Santa, gives a timeline like that, and how do the reindeer fly, how do you give gifts. I really like that it's kind of in a question format, so you're kind of giving Santa's perspective on it. So it's Santa's favorite treat, Santa's favorite song. So it's giving the person of Santa a little bit more dimension. Why does Santa say ho ho ho? How the elves came to work with Santa, who feeds all the elves, learn elfish words, elf games, how do you tell Santa what you want, letter writing, how Santa gets through chimneys, why is Rudolph's nose red. So again, it kind of reminds me of the old claymation videos where kids submitted questions and the little postman answered them about how does Santa do that. So I think that will be a lot of fun to give Santa a lot more dimension and answer some of the questions I think we all want to know. And then of course I will have other books that come from the library as well, but for our activity for that. So this will be ending our final week of our Christmas Santa Claus study. And for that, we will be making a kind of small banner quilt. So it's not going to be a huge quilt. It's going to be like that. It's going to be a wall hanging. And again, I found it on the St. Nicholas website. So this is what it will look like. And it's one of those pieced together quilt patterns. So we're going to go pick out some fabric, and then the kids, because it comes with the pattern, we'll have to stick it together, and my oldest can sew a little bit, so she will help with the sewing, and then the horse goes at the end. But I think that'll be a good final project to kind of ring in the season, and also will be a nice display item, because one thing I really like to do with these studies is make something that we can display for years to come. So for last year we did the St. Lucia crown, and we also made the little St. Lucia peg dolls. Hanukkah, we have various things within our house, and then for winter solstice, we made a wreath that still hangs in our house. So I really like having those things that can be used year after year. Isn't just like a picture, but something that's going to last. So by the time my kids are adults and moving out, they will have a plethora of experience with different cultural traditions, faith traditions, that they're culturally literate, that they have a lot of experience, that's not just one way of thinking coming out of their household, but a lot. So when they go into the world, they're not shocked that other people think different things. So that is my plan for our Santa Claus unit. If you have any questions, leave them down below. If not, thank you for watching.